Purple Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. I will ride with this group. Seriously, man. Please. And away we go.
Okay, our guest on today's episode of Purple Daily is a diehard Minnesota sports fan and a Hastings High School basketball legend. Multiple statues, I'm told, in Hastings of this man. The only man in American TV history to host Late Night, Sports Center, and The Daily Show. One of the most versatile talents this country has ever seen. And a man who is so wildly successful, he now lives a life of leisure, doing whatever he wants. A life of leisure and pontification. He is, from the Life Gorgeous podcast, which you can find on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify, Craig Kilborn making his Purple Daily debut. Welcome to the show. Kilby.
What an honor. Purple Daily, you know, when I was growing up, everyone wanted to be a guest on Johnny Carson. That was a big accomplishment. And then my age, my generation, was being a guest on David Letterman. Now, this new generation, can you get on Purple Daily?
Really,
and it is
right up there.
An honor to be here. And I was wondering, not to be greedy, during the NFL season, the Vikings season, who do I have to know to get on Purple Daily during the season? You can tell me about that at some point. Declan.
Have we ever had a guest like an in-season in the last 3 or 4 years? Have we ever had an in-season guest on Purple Daily besides like Thor's Day? You know, you could negotiate with Thor Nystrom to bump him from Thor's Day.
He could be a genius when it comes to JJ McCarthy, but we'll find out.
We used to like interview the opposing team's beat writers the first year we did it in 2020 during the COVID year, but no, I don't think in the last like 4 years we've ever really had in season.
So it could be a real achievement,
but
a real achievement.
But are you a guest or a more coveted friend of the show? I think you're a friend of the show, which takes you up to
Very
like
important.
the status of Euchre on Carson.
You
know, because Bob was always on with Johnny.
Yes, he was.
Friend of the show, not just a
he
guest. Mr. Baseball.
So we're gonna blatantly steal your 5 questions bit, and we're gonna run it through the prism of our show here in a moment. After we shout out some of our partners that allow us to do this show on a daily basis, starting with Federated. Federated Insurance is like having a great offensive line, Kilby, for your business. They allow you to focus on quarterbacking your business while they protect against things on the horizon. They focus on safety and preventing claims and risk management. And you can find out about the 120-year history of this great company and all the industries they specialize in by going to federatedinsurance.com, where it's our business to protect yours. Also, Judd, MSP Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning is here to help those of you who need HVAC assistance.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And folks, Sports Dad talking to you here because right now it's cold outside. It's miserable. It's raining. And you're saying, I hate this. I can't stand it. Look, let's go back to last week. But if we rewind to last week, what do you remember? You remember it was hot. Now, if you turned on the AC and it was slow to work or heck, it didn't work, do you know what? I call this a reprieve. You've got a second bite at the apple to get that AC fixed and going before it gets warm again, because I promise it will at some point soon here. So make sure that you give the folks at MSP a call, 651-615-4292, or check out their website, callmsp.com. Callmsp.com. It's your good fortune it got cold again, because now you can make sure your house is ready for summer.
That's right. All right, Kilby, we're going to put you in the hot seat here. We have 5 questions that relate to the show and some of our favorite bits and benchmarks. And we'll start with this one, and then wherever this goes, it'll go. But what is your earliest Vikings memory?
Thank you for asking that.
You're welcome. Yeah.
I did get the questions beforehand, and I like them. I have 2 memories. That's okay. The first one I'm going to get rid of was, because I want to get to my other one. The first one is 3rd and 12. I watched in the 1970 on the Vikings. Fran Tarkenton, 3rd and 12. He'd scramble, get sacked. My dad would take his arm and hit the arm of the chair and slam it. And he goes, "Damn it, we're out of field goal range." That was one. That was one memory. The other one was we had Dave Osborne and I believe Bill Brown. And then in 72, my favorite player, this guy who'd catch the ball and run the ball and he'd spin. His name was Chuck Foreman, my favorite player. And we were on Monday Night Football one night and Frank Gifford said he's the plastic man. That didn't catch, but he called him the plastic man because of the way he bent around and bent and did all this stuff. And he was my favorite player, the spin doctor, number 44, Chuck Foreman, my earliest Vikings memory.
Yeah.
So when your dad was so upset because the Vikings, Fred Cox at the time, I'm guessing, was
number 14.
Yes, was out of field goal range. What did that mean back then? What was too far? What was a bridge too far to attempt
That's
a
a
field
great
goal
question.
from?
I feel like 40. I don't remember. Well, I don't remember what what did they kick back then besides Mr. Dempsey? What did they kick back then?
I feel like a 50-yard field goals were very rare. They were like endangered species in the NFL until sometime in the 90s. It's hilarious to look up kicking stats from back in the day because now you get pissed now if your kicker misses a 52-yarder. It's like, how could this happen? Back in the day, these guys would go like, they wouldn't attempt 50-yarders, but if you made like 65% of your field goals, you were a pretty badass kicker in the late 60s, I feel like. Straight on kicking, put your cigarette down.
Yeah, and we couldn't get tickets to the Vikings games. They were always sold out. At least that's what my dad told me. He took us to a lot of Minnesota Twins games and one North Star game, which I think I told you before. It was the Henry Boucher game, Dave Forbes. Shocking. But we couldn't get tickets, but I watched every Sunday. Irv Cross, Brent Musburger, Jane Kennedy, and Jimmy the Greek.
Yeah.
And it was a big deal. Vikings football, purple. I had friends when I went to college that said, I like the Vikings. I said, you're not from Minnesota. I like the purple and I like the horn on the helmet. So when you're a kid, you kind of like different, you like uniforms. So a lot of Vikings fans out there.
The show that you just talked about, though, the NFL Today, half hour, and now I think like you see it and you're like, oh, that was cute and quaint. But Kilby, how much did that show change like sports on TV and like where we are now? Because I mean, I remember when that show would start at 11:30 for a noon kick, it would be like everything got put on hold.
Yep. Yeah. I went to church growing up, Presbyterian, and I just look at the clock like, what is it? I got to get home. I want to watch the game. But well, I liked Brent. He also did the NBA. But what you will know what his famous line is, and he was very enthusiastic. You are looking live.
You are looking live.
And we've been spoiled. The Vikes have always been good. I saw 3 Super Bowls. I didn't see the first one against the Chiefs in the late 60s, but I saw the other 3. I kind of think the other team was better, in my opinion. And I think we've been spoiled. So I'm not one of those guys who suffers with no Super Bowl win. I think it's going to happen. We're going to actually talk about that later with one of your questions. Wow. But I'm just grateful.
Teasing ahead. Still,
I'm just grateful we've been so talented for so long.
You know, you mentioned Jimmy the Greek. You know, one thing that I feel like we've gotten a little too glossy with our gambling experts on TV. You know, all due respect to our buddy Joe Fortenbaugh, you know, the clean-shaven, slick-back hair, the Aaron Dolans, beautiful Aaron Dolan. We need more like Jimmy the Greeks and Beano Cooks, where they're smoking a cigar on TV. Hank Goldberg, you know. They look kind of troglodyte-ish, but you know that they're probably putting their own
so early in the morning.
You're West Coast, right? You know that they've probably got like a little bit of an uncomfortable amount of money on whatever they're talking about on TV. So I just let's bring back the Jimmy the Greek personality.
Personal question. You guys don't have to answer this. I'm putting you on the spot. What's the most money you've made in a bet with the Vikings?
Wow. feel like Judd used to partake.
Judd will not
back in the day.
answer this question.
I dabbled in the 90s for quite some time until I bet on a Golden State Knicks Sunday night tilt to try to make up what I had lost that weekend and realized this could become a problem. On the Vikings, probably $100.
Great.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah.
It's a lot of
like
beer. It's a lot of
Declan
Budweiser,
sweats
a lot of
more than-
hams.
Yeah.
Declan sweats more than that on the
God, yeah.
underdogs.
I'm definitely an underdog. I had to report my taxes. I got a 1099 from underdog last
Look at
year
you.
because of some of the winnings I had. So,
Responsible adult.
but you know what? Last year, because I got married Kilby last July, and I
Yeah.
went to Vegas during like the MLB All-Star break. So there's 4 days in the calendar year where there's not anything going on in the 4 men's major sports, and I was in Vegas for those 3 days. So I played the future bet on the 6.5 Vikings, which I still have to go back and cash. I got to bring the ticket back to Caesars to get my winnings on that one.
Easiest money there. I've never placed a bet on the Vikings specifically. I've done a bunch of like player props and stuff. Poker was always my vice back in the day. So I've had some wild swings up and down in poker that have nothing to do with the Vikings. But let's get to question number 2 here. What is your hottest Vikings take, Craig Kilborn?
So, 2 of your questions are somewhat overlaps. I think it's a prediction and a hot take. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean,
Because I have 2 different answers.
sure. A hot take could be an opinion that's not a prediction, but the write that down prediction must be a prediction.
Okay, so this is the hot take, and this is interesting because I've thought about the top 5 quarterbacks, the guys I like. I don't know if I've thought about the top 10 or top 15, so I'm curious where this guy ranks. But my hot take is, ladies and gentlemen, JJ McCarthy will be a better pro than John Elway.
Whoa!
That's yeah. That's a
I don't
fact.
know where Elway is in the top 15. I don't know. I know he's in the top 15. He might be in the top 10.
He might be in the top 10.
Yeah.
So you're saying if I could unpack this hot take,
unpack.
you're
it.
saying JJ McCarthy will be a Hall of Famer. JJ McCarthy will almost certainly win multiple Super Bowls, and JJ McCarthy will be regarded as potentially one of the 10 greatest quarterbacks in the history of the NFL.
The one thing I would say is, with what you just listed, just because John Elway won multiple doesn't mean you can be better than John Elway and just win one.
Or like Marino won none.
See, I was a Marino fan.
Okay.
Not to get too dramatic, I liked him more than I like Jeff George, and I like Jeff George. It always gets a laugh, Jeff George.
Jeff George had the great arm.
I know but where was Elway? Is he in the top 10?
We did this exercise at one point for, I think it was a rip on Aaron Rodgers somehow. And I remember ranking I don't remember why or how, but Elway's definitely fringe top 10 of all time. There's some guys who kind of moved in there, right? Like Mahomes has moved into that house. The old guys, Montana's in there. You probably got to put Brett Favre in there. A bunch of MVPs.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
Brett
fair.
Favre.
I think Elway's better than
above
Brett
Favre.
Yeah.
Okay.
Peyton.
Manning, Tom Brady are in that room.
Yep.
What do you do with like a Drew Brees who played in a more modern passing era, put up bigger numbers than maybe Elway in the 80s or the 90s? But in terms of just athletes, leadership, the gritty stuff, like there are some
strong jawline.
Prefer to avoid the late 80s heartbreaks, though. The Brown,
getting smoked in the Super Bowl by 40 points and stuff like that.
Yeah, the Super Bowl. But anyway, yeah, he's for sure fringe top 10. I could easily see him being like 9 or 10 for sure.
Wow.
So but I mean, that is a hot take.
So you're clearly very high on, you align with our guy Thor with your JJ McCarthy feeling.
I'm doing it more as being optimistic and
Okay.
pulling for him. That's why, I'm picking the Wolves in 6 against OKC because that's what I want.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. A hot take doesn't have to be something that you like. Write that down. You're pretty sure. A hot take, I feel like, is exactly what you just did, which is I'm going to bring some heat here, up and in, just to make a point.
Yeah.
I'm fair. I'm fine with that.
Yeah. But it's been a year and change now, a year and a month since McCarthy was drafted, and the Vikings have done a good job of kind of just, he doesn't do a lot of interviews and they kind of keep him low profile, but everything that has come out about him has been wildly positive. Even him tearing his meniscus and then a day later going to Harrison Phillips on the defensive side of the ball, this grizzled defensive veteran player, and saying, hey, I want to sit down and watch film with you so you can teach me what to look for defensively. And he's like mapping out his preparation without being told to. I don't know, there's a lot of really good stuff like that that's built up, but we haven't actually, we saw him throw 3 passes against the Raiders in a preseason game, and we're all just still high off that. So
I liked his poise when he sat next to JJ Jefferson at the Wolves playoff game, and they mic'd him up, and I thought he was there's something about his presence. I don't want to say Elvis, but there's something about him that's very charismatic, and we're all pulling for him. Lots of pressure on him, but who cares? He can take it.
Yeah, he definitely has, and it's not a quantifiable thing, but he definitely has an it factor that a quarterback has.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that, you can be successful, but it's a great starting point. The thing that I liked a lot, and it seems like a small thing, when he's sitting by Jefferson, it looked like he belonged there.
Yes.
And I know that might sound weird, but if you put Christian Ponder by Justin, right, it's going to be like, oh, okay, I guess that's cool. But like McCarthy looked like he belonged courtside by the best player on the Vikings.
Totally.
Were you offended that Steph Curry snubbed JJ McCarthy? Steph Curry came over and dapped up Justin Jefferson, and you could tell JJ kind of flinched, like, oh, okay, I'm gonna sit back down.
You know, here. Steph Curry, greatest shooter in NBA history, turns it over a lot. I view that as another turnover on Steph Curry.
I think you're right. Yeah. By the way, his hamstring looked fine when he walked over there. I'm just saying. Okay.
He was afraid of the Ant-Man.
Yeah. Okay. Third question here. Let's we're gonna blur the lines between your hottest take / prediction, and now we're gonna get your write that down prediction. So give us another prediction.
Okay, this might fall in the category of another hot take, but it's optimism. There is a lot of positive energy with the Vikings now because of the head coach who's never won a playoff game, but there's something special about the team. I think the owners are doing a hell of a job spending the proper amount of money. So my prediction is, write this down. Your Minnesota Vikings in the next 5 years will win a Super Bowl. Next 5 years, win a Super Bowl. Boom, boom.
Wow. What's gonna take so long? Why is it gonna take 5 years?
I'm just giving myself a cushion.
I've got him in 2026.
I'm giving myself a cushion because the first 2 times at the Super Bowl, we might miss a field goal to win. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that.
Stop.
Couldn't even finish the sentence.
Will you, if that happens, shed a tear?
Oh yeah, just to let you know, I got emotional. I didn't know this was going to happen. We were underdogs. This is Zimmer's big win down in New Orleans that he regrets, I guess, because he would have gotten the Cowboys job. But when we beat, when he inverted the defensive ends, Everson Griffin and Danielle Hunter, and we won. I think they were favored. They were favored by over 7.5. But these other guys were. Howie Long was said, 17. Saints are going to win by 17. Greatest pass Kirk Cousins ever made in his life down to Adam Thielen. Then we have the winner in overtime to Kyle Rudolph. I got emotional after that win. Did not expect it. Not expect it.
I collapsed to my knees when he hit that pass. Like that is that is one of the rare instances where I'm dead serious. I collapsed to my knees.
Wow.
And
were you doing squats at the time, or were you exercising?
I was violently hungover, and in fact,
okay.
And in fact, I believe that, and the next week's 49ers game, those are the last 2 Vikings games I have ever watched as just a fan. Because ever since then, we've been doing this.
Yeah.
In 2020 on in Purple Daily.
I collapsed to my knees in the second quarter of that 49ers game for very different reasons.
They had a nice touchdown.
Kirk did too, yeah.
So did Kirk.
They had a nice touchdown to Stephon Diggs when there was single coverage. I was so happy. But then Thielen didn't run his route. We had that silly turnover, that interception. And then the sure-handed what's his name, Marcus Sherrills or whatever. I thought we could come back because I try to keep hope alive, but that was a rough game. That was a rough one.
When Kirk lined up under a guard to take the snap, and the guard had to be like, Kirk, it's not me, it's the center. I knew it was all probably for naught.
God.
Just clenching his helmet on the sides, waiting for that play to come in. Boy. All right, the Kirk slander will not be tolerated anymore on this podcast. Okay, you guys need to get over it. What is your biggest Vikings vent? Question 4 here.
I think this is minor, and I was thinking about it last night, and I think I realized why. I always look at the schedule, the toughness of a schedule and the strength of schedule with road games outside of the division. That's what concerns me. And for some reason, when Zim was there, it was always at Seattle. Now this year, again, we're at Seattle. And my logic was, because in our division, the cities are so close, they're short road trips. Seattle, they have to fly a lot even in their division. So they're saying, well, make Minnesota fly there. But I don't like having to play at Seattle all the time. Let Seattle play in Minnesota, and watch us kick a field goal to win that game.
Yeah, get that revenge.
How about just take a year or 2 or 3 off from Seattle completely?
I like that better. Yes. Yeah.
I don't need to see them every single year.
Yeah. Do you get excited? So we're just irrational on this show. We're also, it's fun when things are good for content purposes, but we love the schedule release because the opponents right when the season's over, because you finished this place in your division, and so you're going to play. That you're playing these divisions and the third place team, second place team, whatever. But the order of the opponents, I feel like, is so important, and the way the Vikings schedule lines up. So they have the 5th hardest schedule on paper when you look at either records of teams last year or when you look at Vegas projected win totals. It's one of the 5 or 6 hardest schedules in the league, but it starts off pretty manageable. Like they could have given the Vikings Ravens, Eagles, at Detroit, and whatever, at Chargers on a short week for the first 4 games. And instead, you kind of ease it. You get the Bears with a brand new head coaching staff and a new offensive line. Whatever the Bears are going to be, it's probably not going to be as good in week 1 as it will be in week 10. And then you flip a couple of road games in potentially cold weather cities to neutral site games where you might have more Vikings fans in Dublin and London. So I kind of love the way it sets up, Kilby.
Your logic, though, it's the same with JJ McCarthy. He's going to be better later in the season because it is his rookie year. It's his first year playing. So it's going to be tough on him, even though the schedule is, I hope, slightly easier at the beginning. But I want to see how he develops. If I'm KOC, I protect him a little bit and run the ball more, because we always talk about we want the proper marriage of run pass, especially with KOC, and he's kind of realizes that now. But early in the season, does this make sense? Maybe run it even more than you want to just to protect JJ. I don't know.
Yeah,
I think agree completely. I don't think that you rebuild the interior of your offensive line and go trade for Mason unless you plan to run it more, which I think is huge. He needs to put McCarthy, and I think it's doable. He needs to put McCarthy in 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, not 3rd and 13. Yeah. So I think that I think that's the plan. It's nice that the interior of the line should also be superior in pass protection, but I think a big part of that is to insulate McCarthy with a run game that works.
Just want to make a point. There is an issue that I'm concerned about, and I wanted Joe Flacco. Nick Foles was a backup who won a Super Bowl. I don't want to put all that pressure on JJ and then panic when we have to put somebody else in. So I wanted Flacco or somebody else who's more experienced than the guy we got.
So Sam Howell doesn't quite scratch your backup quarterback itch. Brett Rippon doesn't.
I'd probably rather have Sam Hauser from the Celtics because he's a deadeye. No, I don't know that much about Sam Howell, but I looked him up, and I guess he had a decent year with Washington. Does that sound right?
I mean, he put up a bunch of yards, but he also he led the league in sacks taken, and didn't he throw like 20 interceptions or something?
He had a ton of picks.
So that's a concern. I wish we had somebody else. I wish we did, but that's
is
life.
is Sam Howell a rich man's or a poor man's Nick Mullins?
He better be better than Nick Mullins. That's all I can say. You know,
I think he's a rich man's Nick Mullins.
I hope so.
I think there's some optimism. Yeah.
I'm debating how much you can actually hold this season with the Commanders against him too, because that was such a mess. Like the fact, I mean, check out his pass attempts. They basically dropped him back to die.
Yeah, it's crazy in the NFL though how quickly that organization was absolute. Really, it's been garbage since Brett Rippon's dad was the quarterback in the early '90s. And once you get rid of a bad owner and you hire, I mean, it's easier said than done. But they flipped from one of the 3 worst organizations in the league to now maybe one of the 8 to 10 best run organizations. So that's my hope for Sam Howell is, hey, he got caught up in a weird COVID year in college, and then he gets drafted by like one of the 4 franchises you do not want to go to as a quarterback. And now he's entering quarterback rehab school where he will get to learn under Kevin O'Connell and go through the program, Kilby, that others were able to go through. Sam Darnold, the most recent.
Well, I'll just put my trust and defer to KOC. He wanted him, so we'll see how it goes.
Or did he? I guess maybe it could have been like his 6th choice, and they whiffed on. All right, question number 5 here. Who is your favorite random Viking of all time?
So I have one, and I wanted to ask you, when you say random, does that mean obscure, or I can name a great player, correct?
You can name a great player.
Okay.
I think it would also be fun to hear whoever your obscure answer might be.
Yeah, I don't know if I have an obscure one, but let me.
Well, Jeff George is kind of you already mentioned Jeff George. That's kind of a fun one.
He's not obscure. He's a legend.
Rick Danmeyer.
I don't know him. So I'm not going to mention, I love when I give 2 answers for everything. I'm not going to mention one of my all-time favorite Vikings. Who's Anthony Carter. I'm not going to mention Anthony Carter. Yeah. But that was my favorite game ever, 1987. We upset the best team in football. Bill Walsh said he never got over that loss.
Yeah, Vikings they should have won. The Niners should have won the championship probably that year.
So here's my random Viking, and I'm curious to see. I know he was really good. I think Sports Dad will tell me how good he was. Joey Browner. Browner.
Oh, dominant safety.
That's what I thought.
Outstanding safety.
Like really good, right?
Yeah. And because the rules hadn't changed yet, I mean, he could blow guys up, and there were no flags back then, but man, was he good.
He was bigger than most safeties, correct or not?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, he was. He was big, and he was a house man, but he was a hell of a player.
I believe he was number 47. I can't
47. Yeah. Yeah. They were, it's like we kind of gloss over those defenses. The newer fans and the modern era, you talk about the Zimmer had a number 1 defense, and now the work that Flores is doing. And then you go back to the Purple People Eaters, legendary run. And not a lot is, and even like the John Randall defense is a little bit there in the 90s. They weren't, they were a little leaky on the back end in some of those years. But the mid to late 80s Vikings defenses with Joey Browner, Keith Millard, Scotty Studwell, they had some. Chris Dolman in his prime.
Great.
What years did Matt Blair play?
70s to the early, probably till 84 or so. Because he was on the Studwell defense.
Okay. Number 59, I believe.
Yeah, and blocked a slew of kicks.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are like it's an era of Vikings football, and the win against San Francisco in the playoffs, Anthony Carter, it's just like a really overlooked time in Vikings history.
I was in the 90s. I was in New York doing the Daily Show, and I had this lady friend, beautiful model, African American model, and just spent a little time with her. But she goes, "Hey, I know Joey Browner," so I thought that was kind of cool.
Look at that! Wow. Look at
Ball
you.
Blair.
You got more excited for that than any other.
You know Joey Browner. Can I get a signed photo?
Can I go out with him instead? That would be great.
I'll have a drink with Joey, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I know Kilby has a hockey question for Judd, and we're going to unleash some Wolves takes from you here, even though it's Purple Daily. You deserve a platform to talk about this Western Conference Finals that's about to start tonight here. after we shout out Two Men in a Truck here, Dex.
Yeah.
If we're looking, if we're looking to move Kilby back to his homeland here, we could call Two Men in a Truck. That's what we could do.
That's right. My guys Artie and David helped make my move possible. We moved out of the rental. We're now in our house here, and if I wouldn't be able to pull this off, wasn't for 2 Men in a Truck. I don't just figure out a way to move the bed frame and the couches and all that stuff. The professionals handle that for me at 2 Men and a Truck. They came in the house, they wrapped up everything, they got everything in the truck, then they moved it out of the truck into the new house, all in under 2 hours. It was a great experience. Go to 2meninatruck.com. What they quote is what you pay. No hidden service charges or fees. 2meninatruck.com to get your quote today.
Yeah, they'll even package up safely your Roku TV or TVs, and they'll make sure those things don't get broken in the move. The Roku TV in the Mackey living room last night was there because there wasn't much going on in the sports world. So we actually were flipping through and landed on one of my favorite all-time movies. Crazy Stupid Love was playing.
Great film.
Steve Carell.
Stuff a good movie.
Great stuff. David Lindhagen. The Roku 65-inch Pro Series TV is what brings the Mackeys together after a work day, on a rainy day, potentially. It's also great for watching sports with the Sports Zone that allows you to favorite and find the teams and the games that you want to watch. Go to Roku.com to learn more or shop at a retailer near you. And then one more shout out to all you Ragnars out there. It's DennisKirk.com for all your riding needs. If you ride motorcycles, ATVs, UTVs, dirt bikes, whatever it is, Dennis Kirk is here with 185,000 parts, apparel, and accessories for riding season. It's been raining all day here, so you're probably not riding today. So keep that thing in the garage for now. But whenever you're ready to bust that thing out again, maybe this weekend, same-day shipping on orders placed before 6 p.m., free shipping on orders over $89. DennisKirk.com. Kilby, the floor is yours to pepper the sports dad with questions.
It's not a question. It's a hockey anecdote that I remembered the other day. So when I was doing sports in local TV in Monterey, and then I went to ESPN, I occasionally would mumble. It's not good. I mumbled a little bit. Some people mumble. Got to enunciate. So when I went to ESPN, there was I would say not really a tongue twister, but an exercise I would do as I walked down to the ESPN studio to make sure I didn't mumble. And I would say, faster than a slap shot from the blue line, faster than a slap shot from the blue line. That was my go-to saying. Faster than a slap shot from the blue line to get my mouth working so I didn't mumble. And then, of course, if I didn't know how to pronounce the hockey player's last name, I would purposely mumble. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's normal.
Yeah. So was that a self-taught trick or?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's faster than a slap. It also teaches you to slow down, right? Because you can't really say faster than a slap shot from the blue line
all runs together
without everything running to get faster than a slap shot from the blue line.
That was my go-to exercise to enunciate.
Why did you choose a hockey-related? Did you choose that? You just made it up?
I chose. I don't know if I heard it somewhere from Al Shaver. I don't know where but I just thought it was kind of cool. And it's funny because the guys, I was so into the NBA and I was the NBA guy and people would ask me questions and blah, blah, blah. I mean, the research department sometimes they would say, what? I don't want to look this up. What is it? When was the shot clock? 54, 55. Okay, thanks.
Well, that's Kilby.
But I've told this story before, but Tirico would take me to some hockey games. I mean, we went to a playoff game down in it was the Islanders Rangers. It was the year the Rangers won the Stanley Cup in the 90s. But he took me to a Hartford Whaler game. I love telling this story because
jealous.
I like passing. I like Larry and Magic, and I like passing and Gretzky and the stick handling and, Kaprizov with the flick of the wrist. So I didn't know the Hartford Whalers. We had dinner at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse there at the Hartford Civic Center. And then I went to the game and I said, who's number 8? He goes, why? I go, God, I like the way he moves. I like the way he plays. Well, that's Jeff Sanderson. Craig, he's the fastest skater and the best passer on the team. I see the floor, man.
Wow.
I see the floor
and
the ice.
And his son is now playing, I believe, for Ottawa. Is that right? His son is now playing. So yeah, he was really good. And I am jealous. I would have loved to have seen a game there. I loved that team. And I still am bitter that they moved to Carolina.
By the way, who's the great hockey player from Hastings that when I was growing up? Maybe there are more now, but there was one guy that was really good. He went and played for the Rangers. Might have played for the Stars. I don't know. Do you remember who the guy was from Hastings, Minnesota, my hometown?
What era is this?
Yes.
Do you know?
He was he was older than me, obviously. So, because
it's like an 80s kind of
yeah. He's from Hastings.
Hold on a second here.
Well,
hold on. I
Derek
don't know.
Derek Stepan.
Oh, that's later. That's much later.
Yeah, that was later.
No, he's talking. Kilby knows this. I think he's testing us, and especially me.
Oh, I know the name. I'm waiting to see if you can get it.
Is this Dean Talifus?
Yeah, bingo, buddy. Dean Talifus.
Dean Talifus.
Wow.
Yeah, North Star Ranger.
Yeah.
I think a longtime college hockey coach.
Yeah.
Once he got done playing, yes. Yeah.
Man, I met him, I think, for 2 seconds. I was young. I was a basketball hotshot, and he was just a humble guy who played in the NHL. It was such a big deal because when I was in high school, I think this other guy was a stud from South St. Paul, Phil Housley. He was in the conference, but Dean Talifus was from Hastings, and he went pro, man. Yeah. Small town. I think our population was 12,000 when I was growing up there. I think it's 20K now. Yeah.
Look at that. Look at the building blocks that you guys laid to double the population of Hastings over the last 2 decades.
I got my driver's license in Hastings. I went down to the Hastings Kilby to do the test because all the other courses, like I grew up in St. Paul, but all the other courses around, where the course is, and I heard horrible things. Hastings, you're on the regular streets there. But there's also one-ways there's random one-ways in like downtown Hastings area. I even almost turned from a middle lane, and I still passed my driver's test on the first try.
Wow. But you know what? If you would have failed, at least you wouldn't have to suffer the shame and embarrassment of failing, in your hometown. You can go. That's a smart strategy. Go like an hour away. So if you fail, it's not as embarrassing.
Why did the instructor fail you?
He didn't fail me.
No, but why didn't he fail you?
I would have failed you.
Yeah. So a couple things. I took it. It was the day after the Super Bowl, I believe against the Cardinals and Steelers, and it was a huge snowstorm that night and the morning of. Like, my mom and I were white-knuckled going 25 down 61 all the way to Hastings, and she was even like, I don't know if we should be doing this. And I was like, I think this is the greatest excuse in the world.
Were you driving, or was she driving on the way down?
She was driving the way down, which is ironic, right? It was so snowy, and the roads were so covered with snow that I really couldn't see the lanes. Like I couldn't see them. So I almost turned from a left lane. I reversed and then moved over into the left lane and then took my left. And then when we got back, she said, technically, I am supposed to fail you for that, but you did everything else perfectly, so I'm going to pass you.
Wow.
So shout out to the Hastings Driver's License Center.
And if you see a 32-year-old man who's turning from random middle lanes because he didn't learn during his driver's test, he wasn't held accountable, it's probably Declan.
So I grew up, my dad, was from, born in Queens, but went to high school at Teaneck High School in New Jersey. And we lived in Florham Park, New Jersey. I was really young, and he took a transfer to Minnesota. He worked in St. Paul, and he decided, I want the kids to grow up in a small town nestled on the Mississippi. So he chose Hastings. And the house we had on Prairie Street it was a dirt road. It's paved now. When I was there, it was a dirt road. And when I was like in 8th grade, he said, hey, we have another transfer opportunity. If you kids want to go, we can go to Monroe, Michigan. And my brother and I said, no, we want to stay here. We want to stay here. And then like when I was, I think a sophomore in high school, he said, no, 9th grade. He said, hey, you guys want to move up to St. Paul? You can play high school ball there. And we didn't do it. We just moved outside of Hastings near the Erickson Marine. It's called living out in the country, but we lived in a wooded area. So I would have to commute into town over the bridge over Mississippi every day. But yeah, he chose Hastings, charming little town down there in nestled on the Mississippi.
Legendary town. Kilby, we have 2 minutes left here.
Okay.
And I had the privilege and the honor of already hearing your Western Conference Finals prediction on your podcast yesterday. The Life Gorgeous, YouTube, Apple, Spotify. Go check it out. You welcomed Scott Shapiro and myself, our little Timberwolves group chat yesterday. But for Judd and for Declan and for crossover Timberwolves fans here on Purple Daily, give us a quick 2-minute glimpse ahead to the Western Conference Finals. What happened?
Scott Shapiro from Edina, Minnesota. I'm glad
That's
my
true,
dad
yeah.
didn't choose Edina. I wouldn't be as mentally tough if I grew up in Edina.
You'd be soft as can be.
I would be soft. And anyways, I was going to say something about Cat. I just want to say Phil Mackey is more,
okay. We were all thinking
he's
it.
more mature than I realized, because when I dislike a player and he plays well, I ignore it. But Phil actually gives credit when Cat plays well. He goes, you know what? He's hitting his shots, or he's playing well, or he's not picking up silly fouls. So even though you might think Phil hates Cat, he will be mature and reasonable when Cat plays well.
Credit where it's due. Give credit where it's due. Yeah.
So quickly, I'm taking the Wolves in 6. I've said that for the first 2 series, and I was wrong. It was 5. And if they win in 5, I'll be upset again because I keep getting it wrong. But I'm going to say Wolves in 6, although I have a lot of respect for OKC. I love our team. Careful on the turnovers.
Yeah.
We don't turn the ball over, we'll be okay. We have good defense. Our offense, which they said was clunky last year, is working. Thank God. We have Julius Randle, who's playing the best basketball of his career.
Yeah, The Ringer just put, I haven't read this yet, but The Ringer just put an article up this morning. The stunning transformation of Julius Randle.
Yeah.
And I think the tweet was something like, Julius Randle has turned into something completely different with the Timberwolves. Love it, man. He is Craig Kilborn, the one, the only, Lord Kilby on Purple Daily. You know what? We'll carve some space for you to make a rare guest appearance during the season on Purple Daily.
Thank you.
You can sling some week 3 takes or something going into the Ireland
Just
game.
don't upset Thor. Make sure don't bump him for me. Just do something else creative.
I think maybe after hearing you talk about JJ McCarthy, I think maybe we put you and Thor on a Thursday episode. We'll get out of the way.
Yeah, and
you guys can just make microphone love to JJ McCarthy's legacy, apparently.
Actually, Thor would object, though, to your timeline for Super Bowl, Kilby, because he would say, why? What are you talking about?
Why will it take that long?
Yeah, it's not going to take that long. And it'll be multiple Super Bowls.
Top 15 all time? That seems a little bit conservative. Maybe more like top 6 or 7. You guys can argue it out at some point.
He's going to pass Sid Luckman.
Yeah, Sid
Otto Graham.
Otto Graham's got nothing on JJ McCarthy.
There goes Otto Graham, Sid Luckman, the last great Bears quarterback there. So Craig Kilborn, find him on the Life Gorgeous YouTube channel, Apple and Spotify, and find him drinking a martini somewhere classy, likely in Southern California. For the sports dad Judd, for producer Dex, I am Phil, and we just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. See you guys.